And now let's think back about the protests that was going on before, right? What were we asking for, and what did we get other than scaring the shit out of a lot of people who ended up voting for Trump again? What did we get out of the protests? What was the net gain out of that? Anybody?
You probably got a huge awareness, and I
No,
think
what did we tangibly get, bro? What
oh
did
no,
we get?
I would say that protest, looking at those things on television this summer, was drove black people to the polls.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. But I think on the other side of that, it also drove a lot of other people to the polls to vote on,
True.
on the other
I
side.
agree. So it drove.
Now,
You know what?
luckily, it was a net gain. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of that defund of police talk hurt, especially in the House. We lost some House races we weren't supposed to lose.
Yeah, 10 seats. So to your
Now,
point, like defund the police. Come on, we need the police, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I prefer to have a landslide. I prefer for my team to kill the other team. I don't like close games, but I will take a 1-point win any day.
That's
One
right.
more House member in the House and leave the National Police with the gavel, good enough for me. I don't care. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? And if we can get these two in Georgia, which I think is doable, man, that is the business.
That's right.
Best part of the whole day though was they was looking at the numbers rolling in, and my man Steve Kornacki was like, "We got like 600,000 mail-in votes coming, and so far they're 78, 90%." I can see it coming, and they kept because at first I was like, "Man, Pennsylvania's gonna be out of reach, man. This is gonna be terrible." And they were kind of like, "Yeah, they got like 1 million votes outstanding." And then they kept inching in. But see, the network did it on purpose. Two things I say. Fox and AP called it for Trump. They called Arizona
Early.
They called Arizona Tuesday night.
Yeah, they did.
MSNBC and I think the NBC News organization and CNN probably got in cahoots and was like, we're going to put the knife in this cocksucker's back. We're going to twist this bitch for 4 days.
Yep.
It was just like,
they created a series, man.
Man.
They wanted to see eyeballs on the screen. They wanted the ratings up. They knew if they called Arizona, nobody's going to watch anymore. People were going to go about their business. But they kept that out there and didn't call it because they knew Trump watches TV incessantly.
Yeah.
They put that knife in his back. They just twisted that bitch night after night,
little by little,
vote after vote. They just twisted that knife in that cocksucker's back. I loved it.
Yeah. And then what was the big thing was when they started writing the numbers for each county, and they started writing it exactly. That was killing them, dude. But they just
he's like another 16,000 for Biden and another 500 for Trump.
Yeah.
And this fool was like, don't vote by mail, don't vote by mail. You know what I'm saying?
Dummy.
Like, bro, you shot your load on election day, player. They got their vote by mail in weeks ago.
Yeah. He killed himself, man. I mean, I don't know if it would have made a difference. Do you think it would have made a difference if he would have had his supporter? Because he told all his people to go on.
I think so. It would have. I mean, you had a chance to get more votes. He shot himself in the foot.
It's like effortless. You just sit there and just do your thing. That's why they didn't want him to vote, because that's the easiest way of voting. It's like working from home. You roll out of bed, get on Zoom. You vote by mail, you just fill it out in the comfort of your home, and you just drop it in the mailbox. It was easy as hell. As opposed to having to get up, go to your polling place. I mean, for me, it was easy. You know what I'm saying? I got up, make sure I had my proper attire on, had my robe open, went downstairs and all that. But I had a line here. It was like, usually I just blazed right through. It was a line at this joint. But voting the day of is a production. Voting by mail is effortless. So I think that made it a lot easier for Biden supporters to vote. And Trump made it clear he did not want his people doing that. So it came back to bite him in his ass.
Trust the process. We got a process.
They said the day of here in Georgia, on election day, it was less than 25-minute waits because so many people
had already voted
or mail-in. That, people just walking up and voting 25 minutes and they were out.
Yeah,
day
of was real short, but it had already. The majority of Georgia had already been done.
So I got another question. One, what y'all think about Dave Chappelle on Saturday Night Live?
Oh my goodness!
Has everybody seen that?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you gotta watch.
You gotta watch that. You gotta watch that.
You gotta watch it.
Quace, you gotta watch that, man. Quace, you gotta watch that tonight.
Oh, really?
Quace, I saw that Seduce, man. That dude was crazy, man.
Who?
Quace, I watched that last night. I had to watch all three of them. I saw what the first. Okay, I got to watch the second one. I got to watch. Man, that dude, man, was crazy. And he got away with that shit for a long time.
Yeah, but you saw they sentenced his ass to 120
years. Yep.
Oh, you talking about the dude that had
the sex cult, they call it.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of that is a sex cult or not.
They had women recruiting other women, didn't they?
Well, I didn't watch
that was part of it.
Watching it, but it was
branding
people. He was branding.
Don't forget the actress. He had an actress.
Allison Mack, from the girl from Smallville.
Yeah. Going out there recruiting these chicks.
Yeah.
But I will say
you got to see the show. I don't want to give a lot away, but Cole would tell you, if y'all see it, we got a lot of material to talk about.
Hey, but one more thing, back to the race, man. Are our friends or people that we know that voted for Trump, are we gonna forgive them? Are we gonna reconnect with them? What are we gonna do?
No, they were just opportunists, man.
Okay.
I mean, that's all they were.
Are you still friends with them?
No.
I honestly don't have any friends that I know voted for him. So
I'll find out.
I got a few. And you know what? I want to talk to them because I didn't get the opportunity to talk to a lot of them before the election, and nobody was changing their mind. But I've had it, and back when I was traveling, because I hadn't traveled since March. But when I was traveling, I often ran into Republicans, and we would have conversations in the bar. And I can talk to anybody about anything, right? And when you try to get them to explain how their policies, how the Republican Party's policies benefit them, they struggle to answer the question. They usually are just caught up in hyperbole, Fox News talking points, bullshit like that. They usually don't have any good reason to admit it. Because unless you're Cool, I can see Cool being a Republican because, he's in their tax bracket where those tax policies would benefit him directly. You know what I'm saying? Most people you come in contact with, they have no use for Donald Trump's tax policy. You know what I'm saying? And like we talked about before, trickle-down economics has been proven to be a failure. And, wealthy people don't create jobs because of tax cuts. They create jobs because there's an increase in demand, period. That's the only thing that creates jobs, other than government spending, like infrastructure spending, which you'll see Biden put that forward in his first 100 days.
But the tax bracket doesn't. But at the end of the day, and James, you can step in and say this: the tax bracket benefits both parties, regardless. I mean, Democrats benefit the same way any Republican can, and all of us, I don't care who you are, is trying to figure out a way to minimize the taxes they pay on the money that they make. And if you ain't doing that, you ain't American.
Yeah, but this fiscal policies on both ends, but Republicans will say, I'm going to fiscally be responsible, but I'm not going to take that money and give it to someone who's less fortunate, right? They're going to say you keep it to yourself because you did well, because you minded the books, etc. Versus Democrats would say, well, yeah, I have to help my fellow man and have to bring him along or her along. So it's a difference in terms of how that fiscal policy works. And obviously from a social perspective, Republicans are, screw you, it's all about me. And to Carl's point, you're going to have government jobs, right? Hopefully will come back, infrastructure, which tends to benefit people of color. And obviously people of the majority who are in the lower economic rung should benefit as well. But for some reason, they still believe that, Trump is their guy, which he has not benefited them these 4 years he's been on.
At all. He's just a good salesperson, man. But I mean, if you think about like we were talking about before, I envision a Biden presidency to look a lot more like a Bill Clinton presidency. Because if you remember, Clinton had a Republican Congress he had to deal with almost the whole time. Mm-hmm. And, for Biden, like something like infrastructure spending, without having the Obama's this nigger, and I'm using this word because this is what Mitch McConnell and those guys were thinking. They were not going to have some nigger's name on the high-speed rail system across the U.S. They were not going to have some nigger's name on the highway system or the bridges or the airports or whatever infrastructure spending came about. They weren't going to let Obama's name be on it. Obama rail, the Republicans were not having that shit. Now, with Biden, I don't think they're going to care as much because the country's been in quicksand for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? I think that Biden is going to be the kind of president that can appeal to the other side in a way to say, hey, dude, you ain't got to call it. You can call it O'Connor rail. You don't give a shit. We need to have infrastructure spending in this country so we can get people back to the place where they can get a high school education and get a decent job and put their kids through college. That's what happened to the middle class when the auto industry fell apart and when manufacturing fell apart. And, you know, Trump was bullshitting about that, talking about he's going to bring manufacturing jobs back and we bringing back coal and all that shit. Man, that shit ain't coming back. Them jobs in Poland and Russia and you know, Asia, and Brazil, jobs ain't coming back. But if you got to put nails in the ground to put a high-speed rail system down, that's a job that can't be outsourced. And that's a way that they can make things happen. And then finally, if somebody can figure out how to, you know, if you increase the minimum wage, that's when you give a tax cut, you know, then you cut their corporate tax rate to offset that increase in their labor costs. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's the kind of thing that a moderate like Biden can propose. And if Mitch McConnell had any fucking sense, he can accept that. But we'll see what happens.
Is it going to be a recount in PA? I couldn't figure out if that.
It ain't gonna matter. He's up too much for it. If there's a recount, it's just a prolonging the inevitable. Georgia is gonna have a recount unless that lead increases. I think it's 11,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
It's outside of 1%. It's not automatic recount. So,
Coffee, you did talk about the funniest thing that happened over the weekend with the Four Seasons.
Oh yeah,
the pouring shits in next
door. Yeah, exactly.
No, that and the people outside the White House playing, you about to lose your job. You know what? Chelsea, we need to start the episode with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That beat.
But you saw that meme.
That's hilarious.
Trump had the ultimate 2020 experience.
Yep, about to get fired.
COVID, about to get fired, losing his job.
I think we got it, man. I think we got this in the bag.
Oh yeah, I gotta finish eating this dinner, man. Y'all be easy. Have a good night.
You too, Chuck.
All right.
Hey, the House 94 podcast.
Oh yeah.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, IG, Twitter, Facebook. Hit us up. Give us some feedback. We'll be back next week with more biting content. Sorry I had to throw this one together tonight, but we had a lot of moving parts going. Appreciate you tuning in. Next week. Later.
Peace.